Lovers in a dangerous time. Lovers in a... Well, hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, the live video podcast for people who are looking for a deeper conversation about the movies we watched today. If you like this kind of thing, if you're into this kind of nonsense, please give me a like, a subscribe, and maybe ringy-ding that bell. All right, enough of that nonsense. Yeah, now this is usually where I introduce my borscht bro and co-host with the most, Mr. Jim Chaboyko. He won't be joining us tonight. He's got a number of irons in the fire, and I figured giving him a night off was better than me insisting he show up so I can just tell him about the show he isn't exactly caught up on. So, yeah. So it's just me tonight. Well, you know, me and, of course.
Well, if there's a bright center to the universe, you're on the planet that it's farthest from.
Well, thanks for that vote of that vote of confidence, Luke. That's right. It's just me and my my wonderful floor director, Luke Skywalker, which totally makes sense. It is May the 4th. May the 4th be with you. I do want to note a couple of things before on that, before we really get into it, before we get the show on the road. May the 4th, before it ever became like a Star Wars meme, it was the anniversary of the Kent State Massacre, when the National Guard shot a whack of peaceful protesters. A number of those students lost their lives. It was also the actual day of the Haymarket Massacre. Folks may notice, all over the world, but this time actually in the United States as well, and even up here in Canada, May the 1st has always been International Workers' Day. Rallies, celebrations, events, that kind of thing. That was all to commemorate the Haymarket Massacre and in Chicago, and the fight for the 8-hour workday, overtime, that kind of thing. I will later on, folks. I'll put a link in the description on this, but yeah, that is that's there's something deeper going on May 4th. Also, and perhaps this is even more important, certainly important to me, it's my birthday. So, without a way, let's really get this show going. Of course, we are talking about the second season of Andor. Here's the log line from IMDb. In an era filled with danger, deception, and intrigue. Intrigue, folks. Intrigue. Cassian Andor embarks on a path that is destined to turn him into a rebel hero. A hero. Yeah. That certainly kind of captures the series, but here's the log line, or kind of the setup I wrote, and that sort of sets the second season up. I hope it works for you. A year after the events in season 1, we find Cassian about to boost an experimental TIE fighter from an Imperial base, while his fellow Phyrexian refugees, Bix, Brasso, and Willman, and of course comic relief bot BMO, or B2, I don't know, they lay low as illegal farm labor on the agricultural planet Mina Rao. Of course, the heist doesn't go as planned. Cassian is stuck on Yavin a few years before the Battle of Yavin, between two groups of rebel ding-dongs, while his friends on Mina Rao try to figure out how to dodge ice. I mean, the Imperial inspectors who've just landed. Meanwhile, on Chandrila, Mon Mothma's daughter and wannabe trad wife Lita is actually marrying Stekken, the apparently weak-willed and possibly gay. All good, but it's one of those things where I'm like, yeah, I think that'll be a plot twist later. Son of the sketchy Davos Skulden, and everyone's invited, including her cousin Vel, who still pines for her partner Cinta. Luthen and his aide Clea, who apparently do sell the odd antiquity, and even Tay Kolma, Mon's former lover, recent helper, and now possible blackmailer. Even worse, Chandrilan weddings take 3 fucking days. Jesus. Anyway, and let's not forget our loyal subjects of the Imperium, Dedra Miro and Cyril Karn. Dedra is invited to help the Empire commit a crime against humanity, and she's got troubles on the home front too. The in-laws are coming for a visit. Speaking of the home front, old Cyril is back on Coruscant and back in the bowels of the Bureau of Standards, but with a promotion, which you know won't satisfy the galaxy's worst mother. Yeah, that's kind of my take on there is really the setup to the second season. Of course, more stuff has happened. What they've done is, hey, 4 years before Yavin, this is going on. Then, of course, 3 years before the Battle of Yavin, more hijinks, and then we're going to speculate on what else is going on before the season wraps up in a couple of weeks. Here's a question for you. This is kind of what I've worked out. We've got kind of the action is set up, but what about the emotional story? What is really going on here? Yes, it's about how Cassian becomes the Cassian of in Rogue One, but I would say the emotional log line here is, in a way, we know Cassian survives, but with what scars? What are the events that turn him into the person he is, the ruthless rebel and perhaps assassin that we're kind of given, the fixer we're given in Rogue One? What is the cost of this rebellion? What is the cost of revolution? But before we get into the spoiler zone, see it or skip it. Of course, see it. Why are you here? Why am I here? I cannot believe, though, this is such great television. Compelling characters, almost insurmountable obstacles, worthy goals, personal stakes, and kind of for me, the quintessence themes I can get behind. So yeah, that's I think that kind of sets it up. Let's keep the machine moving and jump into, bear with me. I do love the spoiler zone. Okay, yeah, as far as I'm concerned, this is some of the best television I've seen in years. And I really enjoyed the first season of The Mandalorian, but this is a whole other level of filmmaking, television making, storytelling. It's almost a hybrid. I even was playing around, folks, early on when I was playing around with this. I took the first 3 episodes just to see if I could. I cut them all together into one big movie. And when I say cut, I mean a little stitching. And it's a 2 hour and 10 minute movie, 2 hour and 5 minute movie, and it plays well like that. Although I still think the way they broke up the episodes, it's still better television than it is a film, but it's almost kind of a weird hybrid. Unlike the first season where it was more of a classic TV show. Here's your 1 hour, here's your next hour, here's your third hour. Here, we're getting almost like movie 1, movie 2, movie 3, movie 4. It's almost like Tony Gilroy's Ring series, Wagnerian. What the heck is that called? You know what? Let's find out. Bear with me, everyone. All right. Wagner Ring. Oh. Come on. Starting the ring. Yeah. Der Ring des Nibelungen. And I have totally messed up that pronunciation. But this is like his Ring series. But enough of that. I just so jazzed about it. Every episode ends at the right point, gives you enough to feel satisfied, while at the same time, kind of going, okay, well, what's next? How are they going to get out of this jam? What's the next jam? Everything keeps winding up. It keeps ratcheting up. I would call this all kind of I wasn't just referring to Wagner because of the length of these movies, the way it's structured, but I also think it is kind of an operatic tragedy. The first 3 episodes of season 2 kind of gets all the players in motion. Cassian's become a rebel now, which is really the first season. We take a guy who's just a sketchy, just a creepy, sketchy, untrustworthy hustler, always out for himself. By the end of season 1, it's like, no, he's committed to a cause, something greater than himself, and committed to his friends and his family, including Bix, the young Brasso, a guy he grew up with. Who was the young man again? Oh, yeah, Wilmon. This, though, it's like, okay, he's now we're sort of setting up that next phase of him, the rebel, him becoming the guy he was. And in the last few episodes, 4 through 6, I would say that's kind of ratcheting up the tension to this peak, this climax, where we really get a moment in the story. Bix, who's struggling with post-traumatic stress disorder, not dealing with it well. She has what I think will probably be her best day in a operation where they, pew pew the guy she was tortured by, but that's kind of ramping up the conflict on Coruscant. Meanwhile, Mon Mothma she would be how would I describe this? Mon Mothma is like an American senator right now, still thinking, I can make the system work. We got to fight the Empire. Can I get your votes? And she is discovering it's like, yeah, no one's the Republic that she thought she was a part of, and that the Empire is just somebody you got to push back on, I think she's finding out that's no more. And you see her turn as she's almost like, well, what am I even doing here? Dedra and Cyril, well, I'm going to save that for later. Of course, Cinta and Vel, they do get back together. We see that. And in one of the great, beautiful moments, we see Dedra or not Dedra, Cinta and Val kind of repair their relationship, be really deeply honest, vulnerable with each other. It really is a beautiful moment, which makes it all the more heartbreaking. And remember, we're in the spoiler zone. All the more heartbreaking when Cinta dies. And she doesn't even die as much as Val kind of tries to, when she eulogizes her, she's crapping on the callow youth rebel who accidentally shot her because when he shouldn't have even had a gun. She is she's trying to eulogize this person who just died in the stupidest way, the shittiest way, not in some grand, oh, I'm dying for you. No, just an idiot who shouldn't have had a gun, fighting with another person he shouldn't have been fighting with, and she's just dead. And that strikes so hard, especially as they had, made up. They had repaired their relationship. They had kind of recommitted to each other, had told Luthen that the only way they're going to go forward now in the cause is together. I think that's beautiful. And makes her death tragic, but also lends to how effective the storytelling is. And that's what I mean is I can only assume you'd be on the side of the rebels or revolutionaries. But all the characters, even Dedra and Cyril, all their goals are worthy and they all have personal stakes. They're worthy goals from their perspective. And that these two characters have kind of said, you know what, we can have, and that's a big thing. I think one of the big thematic elements is, what cost for the cause? What do you give up? What won't you give up for the cause? And that these two characters said, we're not going to give up each other anymore. We're gonna do this together. Even though, Cinta dies in just a shitty way. Like if war is an industry and rebellion is an industry, it was basically an industrial accident. And that just sucks. I think that is one of the big strengths of that. Even the fact that, of course, they are on Gorman. Why are they on Gorman? Because as you see Cassian mature as a soldier and a spy, and his ability to judge people, just as he did on Yavin with the two ding-dongs that he'd be, oh, you're all morons, and I'm going to manipulate my way out of this, as long as one of these idiots doesn't shoot me. Even on Gorman, you see him make up a mature call to say these folks aren't ready and we're just going to blow them up. But you also see the ruthlessness of Luthen. And then Cinta and Vel, the way they roll in, they are like, it makes me think of how I bet you some of the Russian advisors, the Soviet Russian advisors and NKVD commissars, the way they bullied their way through the Spanish Civil War. And it's like the way they, and that makes it even worse because they're such bullies. They don't try and connect with anyone. That I think is part of the reason Cinta is shot. Just killer storytelling. Of course, there are a couple of stutters in this. Oh, wait, one more thing. On the highlight stuff. I don't know about you folks. I think this still has one of the best one-liners. There's Dedra's former aide now kind of taking over the Axis project, trying to find Luthen, and he's given him and Lonnie, the double agent, Luthen's guy in the ISB, given a job to do, go keep an eye on those idiots, which is so corporate. So, I've been there. And he's like, be proud of me, sir, whatever, some kiss-ass thing. And it's like, what is it? What is that character's name? Oh my goodness. He is so good. I cannot find it, and that's going to bug me. Anyway, Dedra's boss, the Luthen to Dedra, or let's say if Clea's Luthen's Dedra, this guy is Dedra's Luthen. Anyway, he's like, calibrate your enthusiasm. It's an assignment. Calibrate your enthusiasm. Like, it's just, oh, mwah, chef's kiss. There were a couple of lowlights, small, in my opinion, minor, but let's go to the chat quickly. I see we've got, of course, our man, the myth, the legend, Jelly Duck 100. Good to see you, man. Yes, and I appreciate you calling me out on my 5 minutes turned into 15. Thank you very much. We also have Will Kavanaugh wondering what my thoughts on Krennic and Mon Mothma and Bail Organa recast. Okay, Krennic and Mon Mothma, their debate. That is a great question. I'm going to put a pin in it. I'm just going to get through the lowlights because I would love to know what your lowlights and highlights are. Then we'll come back to that. And as far as Bail Organa, was he recast? I thought wasn't Bail Organa, not Jimmy Smits. Oh my goodness. Bear with me. Benjamin Bratt? Oh my God, he did replace. You're right. That's also an excellent question. I'll answer that quickly, Will. You know what? Obviously, I can't believe it. I didn't even notice, which is terrible and borderline offensive to any Latino or Latina viewers. I mean, they're not the same people. I always thought it was Jimmy Smits and then Benjamin Bratt, and you're right. And it's like, it was effective, I guess. I don't know. Depends on how much of a role he's going to play later. Maybe that's it. I don't know. Ooh, yikes. What are your thoughts on it? As to your other question, come back. There are a couple of lowlights here, or I can't even call it lowlights, more like stutters. Times when it's like a little too maybe on the nose or a little too, I'm not buying this here. When Krennic is giving out in Andor's version of the Wannsee conference, Google it, he is giving the Emperor's commitment to renewable energy or some other. Well, let's be honest. And it's like, oh, really? That's what you're doing? I'm okay. It took me out of the show, and there's a couple other moments like that where I was like, oh, maybe it's just too much going on. I'm not sure we've seen enough of. Oh, another stutter where it was almost like the exposition wasn't done well enough was when in the second day of their Leda's wedding ceremony on Chandrila, where Val and Mon are talking about the last time they were there, and they're explaining stuff to it. It's just straight exposition. And to quote one of my favorite writers on story, I strongly recommend this book, Into the Woods, John York. But in here, he writes about how exposition works when a character uses it as a tool to achieve their desire. And this was the moment where otherwise exposition has really been handled well in this film. It is. A character is using it as a tool to achieve their desire. There, though, it isn't. Remind me why we're here. Well, let me tell you why this happens and what we do here, even though they've both been there. And it's like, okay, this is obviously just given for me. I think that was a stutter as well. But these were minor stutters. And one of them that I thought was a stutter, and I don't know, I'll ask you guys. For me, initially, when Brasso was like, "You sold us out to the other, the guy on Min Rao," he says, "Oh, you sold us out. You just want to break us." And I'm like, "What? What? Oh my goodness, whatever." But it was on the second watch where I'm like, he's looking at him and he smiles at him a little. And I was like, oh, he is protecting Buddy, because I forgot that Buddy knows Luthen. They're there because this is a place Luthen sent them to be safe. And so Brasso, even at where he might be shot, definitely taken away, he is there understanding he's got to protect that guy. And so I don't know, but what did you guys think of that? Let's see, we got a bit more in the chat here. Will says, very disappointed about the recast, but he understands it. Happy they still included Bale because he is crucial to the story. He's going to have a big part in the next art, according to Tony Gilroy. Ooh. All right. Well, you know what? I got to remember this because I am a little ashamed, a little embarrassed that I didn't even notice that recast. Does anyone know why it was done? Was it just that Jimmy Smits was maybe a little too old and they didn't think they could sell it, or contract stuff? Who knows? Anyway, I'd love to hear. Make it out in the chat. Was there for you guys, any other stutters in the storytelling so far? Love to hear about that. Highlights. Love to hear your favorite parts. For me, though, I also have speculations, or let's say questions. Things that won't be answered in the narrative. Some of it's going to be a little more on the I betcha, but some of it's kind of, I'm really curious as how they manage that. And I think that's the time to talk about Dedra and Cyril. I got to admit, folks, I was shocked that Dedra and Cyril were, well, shacking up, but are they really? It's, that they're together, really kind of blew my mind. But as the stories developed, I'm still kind of struggling with it. Are Dedra, you can kind of get Cyril. And I think I get Dedra. If her backstory is accurate, and I think it is, I don't think they're playing like 8-level Smiley's people, Licare, chess here. But so if Dedra's honest about her parents are criminals, she was raised as an orphan, a lot of her behavior kind of makes sense. The super high achiever wants to, anything for the Empire, sort of to prove her genes are good. Cyril, well, you see that harridan of a mother, and you kind of get why why Cyril is the way he is, and why he wants what he wants. But I don't know about you guys. Those characters are so well drawn. When Dedra puts his mother in her place, I'm cheering for Dedra, even though she's using the same tactics she's used on Bix, used on Cyril when she thought, it's like, okay, what are you asking me for? And why do you know this stuff? And how are you involved in this? There's this weird sort of thing going on, but it's like, yeah, put that crazy mother in her place. Cyril deserves protection. She's terrible to him. And these are bad people. And that, again, it just ups my respect for the storytelling here. But it also kind of makes me think that maybe not Cyril, but in a way, Dedra is one of the most interesting characters here. I'm really kind of curious as to how they play it out. is she going to be redeemed? You know, does she actually have any kind of love, however terribly demonstrated, for Cyril? Does she care about him actually? You know, you can tell Cyril it's just any kind of semi-kindness from a woman is going to be like, "Oh, thank you." You know, but he does seem to be better. He's not quite the pill once he hooked up with Dedra. It's crazy. Um, I do think that Dedra, like Luthen, Luthen's gonna die as far as I'm concerned. Um, how, I don't know. Obviously, Dedra gets to him. You see in trailers that she's in his chape, got a gun on someone. I'm assuming that's Luthen. But I'm also like, yeah, Dedra's still not a field agent. Why is she there? Why does she look the way she does? Of course, she's fixated on Axis. She's, yeah, like, how did she get there? How did she get in that shop? How did she get to Luthen or maybe Claire, or maybe somebody else? Like, what's going on there? And what is her, at the end, what is going to be her final motivation? Is she going to be redeemed in some way? You know, she is planning a crime against humanity. Not sure how that can be done. But yeah, I'm kind of curious about that. We got some more action. More action in the comments. Oh, scheduling issues apparently between Mr. Bratt and why Mr. Bratt was cast instead of Mr. Smits. This feels more like a 6-hour movie than arcs leading up to the Gorman Massacre lowlights. Dedra and Cyril relationship. Highlights Cassian's awareness with the Gorman people and Mon Mothma debate. Yes. Me, I'm actually really fascinated by Dedra and Cyril, as I've just described, Will. You're right. That is kind of his maturity, is he gets it, and he still has compassion. We saw that in the very first scene with when he's stealing the TIE fighter in episode 1. And it's how can I put this? Yeah, he's kind to her. She's obviously terrified. She doesn't want to look him in the eye, and he connects with her on a human level. Even when he's crapping on the Gormans for their terrible their terrible spycraft, their terrible tradecraft, the fact that they got to get their heads out of their asses. He's still kind of like he's kind. He listens to the bellhop. He gets a vibe for them, and he's not cruel. He's not bullying. He's honest, he's straightforward, but he's not bullying. And in the end, he's like, no, this is a bad idea. They're not prepared. And you also then get to see Luthen go, well, we could have had a fire. And then when he talks to Clea, his real second in command, it's, well, you knew he wasn't the right guy. We got people who'll take care of him. And what happens? They don't pull, the heist is a failure. They've lost a person, all because Vel and Cinta kind of bullied these people, dismissed them. So of course one of the morons brings a gun. Of course one of them gets shot. What a disaster. So yeah, I'm with you. The Mon Mothma debate. Great scene, great tension. Just, I mean, that's like Rafifi level stuff as Clea's struggling with the key, as they're arguing, even the talking about touch and blindness. Outstanding scene. Definitely one of the best to date. It also kind of, I think it is every debate imperialist powers ever have. Uh, and she is, I think, ostensibly a liberal. Here in Canada, be a Liberal Party member or a New Democrat, you know, we have to have sympathy for these people, but she's still one of the ruling elite. And Krennic, now there's a piece of shit. He's also that kind of ruthless piece of shit that, you know, it's like, well, what about this? Any MAGA wackadoo, you know, but that's almost, it's dismissing Krennic because he's not crazy. He's an evil son of a bitch, but he's not crazy. He is thoughtful. It is a debate where you see he's an oily. So yeah, no, great debate. But I'm also thinking though, it's here, even there, it's almost like Mon's. I'm going to use what's going on in the United States, and it's happening here in Canada and Australia and England and Germany and France, like these, you know, ostensibly small L liberal countries. You know, I'm thinking in an overall sense, politically, economically, everything. She is trying to appeal to cold imperialist power, under that same idea. It's kind of, you see this especially, why do Democratic senators cooperate with Republicans? You know, why do they think, you know, I just need to convince them of, you know, that's just not right. I'll appeal to their better nature. Krennic has no better nature. Krennic's a piece of shit, like to his core. And not evil like Darth Vader or the Emperor or anything, like a force of evil. No, these people are amongst us now. These terrible human beings are amongst us now, here. You know, so yeah, But thanks for bringing that up, Will. Now I'm all charged about that. I want to go watch that over again. And again, while Clea's trying to get the thing, Lonnie's, what the fuck are we doing here? Just even Mon Mothma's wife, Perrin, who, and I'd love to hear what you guys think, but for me, Perrin, even Mon Mothma and Perrin, because this is, as I did my whole Lovers in a Dangerous Time gag at the beginning, it is, you got all these pairs, right? Some are truly just mentor, mentee, or if they're partners, they're partners in a cause. I'd say Luthen and Clea. Luthen and Clea are that. But otherwise, it's these pairs, and I think even old Mon and Perrin, what little we see of them, you kind of start to get an idea of, yeah, they have been married decades. If they have lovers, or if they had lovers, they have passed on. They're a little older in their life. They've got kids to worry about. They're also, I felt a bit more like they were connected, a little more like a bit of a team, you know? And that tension is there as he's, you know, he's not crapping on his wife, but he's also not, you know, he's like, geez, Mon, hold back, take a breath. You know, you just, that tension of that scene. Yeah. Damn. Will, again, thanks for bringing it up. Here's another question for you guys. Of course, I do think, again, I talked about Dedra. I mean, seems pretty straightforward. She's gonna eventually, Dedra's gonna get a bit of the you lack, you doubt the power of the Force. She is going to run into Darth Vader. We're gonna see him. but it's, yeah, how does she end? What is her end? What is Cyril's end? You know, I really am I'm kind of confused by it in a good way. I'm not with you on that one. I'm not with you on, Will. I think that's actually the wild card that makes it all kind of work. Um, Here's a question though. So Mon Mothma, we know there's another character we know that makes it. When does she go over to the rebellion? And does she go over? Does she take it over? Luthen's gonna die. She's certainly a big enough deal. But yeah, when does she go over? I really do. You had mentioned, Will, you're talking about its structure, like 2 6-hour movies. I think they're like 4 2-hour movies. I did cut the first 3 episodes into one, where I trimmed out the title sequence and the credit sequences for the first 2 episodes. So hey, this is a movie, and it's just over 2 hours. So we're basically getting 4 2-hour movies. I think it's structured like a tragedy, set up, rising tension. And that's what we kind of saw in the last 3 episodes. It just gets more tense, riskier, until it all kind of pops at the top at the end of the episode. Luthen's amping up the conflict. Like there's an explosion on Coruscant. That will have a reaction. Against Cassian's advice, and it really doesn't matter how badly I think Val and Cinta effed up what happened on Gorman. Gorman's on fire now too. And that's, as Luthen wanted, a fire closer to the center of things, not out in the periphery. And then, of course, Mon, which comes to my question, Mon is discovering the limits of her power, that she and her fellow senators, they got no guts. They're not willing to actually do anything. She can have these debates. Krennic can smile, but Krennic's the one in charge. He knows it. He knows that the Emperor's the one in charge. And eventually, as we find out in Star Wars, the Senate gets swept away. You know? And so, yeah, I'm wondering, does Mon Mothma go over to the rebellion? Does Perrin alive? What about Leda? Does Leda come back? Because we're going to see Leda. Does Leda come back crying, going, I thought marriage would be different? And, is there, domestic violence in that? Or is it, I really do, I don't mean, oh, he's obviously gay, but it's like, is the boy gay? And she's going to find out she's trapped in a loveless marriage to a gay man who will never give her that kind of connection. Because again, we got all these pairs, right? Yeah, that's what I'm fascinated by. I want to know. What about, yeah, please comment in the chat or down in the comments, kind of where we're at here. I do think one more okay, Bix dealing, or let's say maybe dealing with, not well, but dealing with post-traumatic stress disorder. Of course, she's abusing drugs to sleep, but Luthen, who's obviously gone down that road, who knows, maybe he's still on those drugs. He's like, yeah, when you get off them, they come back even harder. The dreams, the horrors. We see her killer tormentor, I suspect, as we go on the downward slope of the arc. Springs tightened. It's now been let loose, unraveling. She will also unravel. The dreams won't go away. We were given a visceral end. We're now going to see the consequences of that visceral end. as she will continue to be tortured by her dreams. The drug abuse will get worse. I don't see Bix making this. I don't see her making it out. Vel, tough to say. Tough to say if we'll actually, like, what other role does she have? How will Luthen use her? What role will she have in the story? I also am kind of curious about, does Perrin make it? What about, Skundin? Is it Skundin? What the heck is this guy's? Davo Skulden. Stekken's the boy, Davo's the man, him and his wife. Like, we keep seeing them. What is their role in this? Is he, I think thematically, he's like any other rich man. He's going to be where the power is. But yeah, how does that play out for him? Clea, I'm willing to say Clea makes it. I think Clea makes it. We see a hint of her. She's saying, "Oh my goodness, they got this weapon." So I think she makes it. It's also the time when you see her in clothing that is not how they have her dressed every other time. Note on that when we get into themes about the costuming. But I think she makes it. Yeah, those are my speculations, my questions, my speculations. Does Mon Mothma go over to the rebellion when Luthen dies and somebody needs to step up and be a leader? What about Saw Gerrera? I mean, I can't be the only one who went, wow, this is like a peasant revolutionary mystic, like a Colonel Kurtz of the space age, the horror. So how does that play out? When do they become, because they've got to get to a point where at the end of this, the beginning of Rogue One, the rebellion is it's not just like the French resistance. They're more like the North Vietnamese army or Tito's partisans with, military units, hidden bases, real infrastructure. That kind of thing ain't cheap. And what I've always appreciated about Andor is how grounded it is. So yeah, I'm kind of wondering about that. And I think that's where we're going to talk a bit about Andor and its relationship with Star Wars. And this is represented in Mon versus Luthen. Even Cassian, an orphan, and Dedra, another orphan. With Andor, we've got a world where, as bad as the Empire is, doesn't sound like and we learned this in season 1, the Republic was no heaven. The Republic was, that could have been the United States of the Vietnam War, really. Strip mining and killing everyone. I'm not saying the American government did that, but they certainly looked the other way when corporations financed, creepy armies down in Central and South America. There's historical precedent for this and a lot of mushing up stuff, but there is historical precedent for it. And that, I think, is kind of like in Andor, although we get a hint of it, so far in Andor, haven't seen the Force, no Jedi, no Force-capable people. Like, This is all grounded grassroots stuff. Um, Mon Mothma is that liberal senator who's realizing, oh, no resolution is gonna change this. And no one's talked about any Jedi coming to rescue them. Oh, if we could just find, or none of that. It is all grassroots and some elites going, oh, I didn't mean this. Yeah. But here's the thing is Star Wars really is, oh, we just want to get rid of the Emperor and go back to the way it was a few years ago. We just need to restore the Republic. Everything was fine. Get some Jedi back, and we can restore the Republic. Whereas I think Andor, and we see a bit of this in The Mandalorian, but Andor is saying, no, the Republic, the Empire is just the logical next step for the Republic. That eventually so much power will be concentrated in so many wealthy hands, so few people, that it becomes really easy for one to kind of grab it all. They're already using military force to, strip mine places and cover it up later. The Republic was not a force for good for a lot of people. And so, just as the Emperor sweeps away the old for something new, I think that's Luthen's whole mission. And I've got a link in the description to Damian Walters' political analysis of the first season. And he can kind of go into the whole Marxist analysis of it, the bourgeois revolutionary versus the vanguard, the Leninist vanguard, etc. But I do think, yeah, this is what Luthen is after, and Cassian and Clea, and even Vel and Cinta, they're after a revolutionary change. They don't want to just defeat the Empire to reestablish the Republic. They want something new. We met that guy in the first season. I can't remember what it was. He was kind of a theorist, a revolutionary theorist, kind of a mix of Lenin and Trotsky, I guess. But I think that's really strong there in this. In this is that idea of revolution, whereas Star Wars is rebellion. We just need to get rid of this guy. There's a bad guy with bad mojo and bad juju powers. We get rid of him, get rid of this. Everything's fine. We defeat that one big technological horror. Everything's fine. It'll all be everything will work out. Andor isn't saying that. We see the extent of the exploitation. And it's very much mirrored in our own worlds. There's a reason why they were basically illegals on an agricultural planet doing agricultural and, traveling laborers, And even the state knows, I know you're illegal, but as long as you let me, abuse you, we can just keep it going like this. It's everything that I'm sure is going on right now. There are ICE agents right now. I have no doubt there are ICE agents right now shamelessly exploiting, some Latinx or maybe some German or whatever, So, yeah, Andor saying it's all gotta go. The Emperor's like, well, no, that's all mine, and it'll all be in my image. And that's kind of, I think, the core of the core thematic thing. But there's also a maybe not core, maybe the other half of the core is what cost for a cause. Valencinta, in a beautiful moment, kind of say, hey, there's no point. And Mon is part of that. Is she's like, who cares if the cause succeeds if we're all dead? You know, if we're all so damaged, we might as well be dead. Look at poor Bix. Luthen isn't looking after her. Luthen's going, can I still use you as a tool for the cause? You know, Clea, no problem, putting Lonnie at huge risk. And Lonnie is like, I gotta change this. I got a kid. And it's like, nope, you're in too deep. You know, Luthen's biggest negative judgment so far of anyone is of Cassian, who says, hey, these folks aren't ready. They're not gonna be ready. This is not a place to spend time, effort, and expertise and lives. They're done already, you know? And I think that's really kind of, and it's all represented in these relationships. Even, say, Dedra and Cyril are Cassian and Bix, whereas Dedra kind of looking out for Cyril, even though she's using them. And whereas Cassian is looking out for Bix, but maybe not seeing how bad it really is for Bix. And I think that those pairs, and you have Mon Mothma and Perrin, Luthen and Clea, what's his name, and Dedra, not Cyril. There's all these pairs, Valencinta, all these pairs that kind of how they play out. I think that's, another amazing theme in this story. And I just cannot wait, to see if any of my predictions played out and how this will play out. Now, of course, we do, but before we keep moving forward, I believe I see a troublemaker in the we got a troublemaker in the chat. Dragon Movie Guy. DMG says the least decisive Star Wars project ever. Yeah, that's what I was thinking. They just can't commit to a bit. Where is this going anyway? What are we even doing here? Oh my goodness. That is terrible. DMG, you haven't seen season 2 yet, but you loved season 1. I strongly recommend it. I binge watched 1 through 3. You can blow it off in an evening, especially if you skip through the title sequence and the recap and they really are 1 through 3, 4 through 6. They're 2-hour and change movies. And you could you could binge them all at night, in the one night when they come out. Strongly recommend it. It's just some of the best television I've ever seen. I said it before when I was in Cedar Skip It. Of course, we're in the spoiler zone now, but I'm like, compelling characters. Here's the thing. Great films need 5 things. Or let's say 4 plus 1, the fifth element. There's a cut for you. Maybe not that deep, but still seems apropos. Anyway, compelling characters, check. Nigh insurmountable obstacles, or when you have characters that are going to live, they are forced into irresolvable or nigh irresolvable dilemmas. It's the same thing, worthy goals. Even the bad guys that you sometimes cheer for, their goals from their character's perspective are worthy. And yes, sometimes, like I did, I'm like, who wouldn't have cheered when Deirdre put Cyril's mother in her place? It's like, fuck me, that bitch. Oh, not what I wanted to say. That. Anyway. But here is so that's 4 things. Yeah. Characters, obstacles, goals. Oh, not 4. Stakes, real personal stakes, not just, oh, the emperor could be in charge again. It's like, no, they all have loved ones or their identity wrapped up, or like, how the heck could I sympathize so much with Cyril? That's because there's real personal stakes, well told, just mwah. But here's the 5th thing. And whether you agree with the themes being explored and I think the creators' obvious feelings on which side they come down on these debates, there's got to be a strong theme. There's got to be, and it should be represented everywhere. I think it was Will, earlier in the chat, the costuming came up. Look at even the costuming. There is this great moment, and it really didn't sink into me until a moment in the last few, I think it was either episode 5 or 6, somewhere in that 4, 5, 6, where Mon Mothma, she's taken off, like she's got kind of a neck choker thing, and she takes it off as her and her husband are trying to figure out how they're going to negotiate their way through a period of a whole bunch of parties, but no policy, no actual action is ever going to come out of the Senate again. And you see that collar chafing. Everyone, even when Dedra is in civilian clothes, maybe in a little number that might be easily removed for her lover, maybe Cyril, hard to say. There's still a kind of choker. All the Imperials, and the higher the status, the more the neck goes up. Whereas all the revolutionaries, all the rebels, all open collars. And you see other things, the way everyone is either very studied in how they dress or very, scrappy. I just, you see that represented. And that goes to how it's a strong theme, how they know they really have a command of what they're trying to do here. And of course, that it's politics that really fit me, my left-wing ass. I'm in heaven. But even if I didn't agree with it, I can still kind of go, damn, that's some great storytelling. That's great. There's greatness going on here. It's not just good. I'll be coming out with my Thunderbolts review shortly, and it is an above average MCU movie. But it's not great. I'm not even sure I could say it's very good. It's good. It's above average. Not fine, DMG. Not giving it that backhanded compliment, but it's good. It's entertaining. It's well made. The story's well told, but I wouldn't go, wow, this is, yeah, it does not have that magic. Andor does. DMG said, heard they originally planned out this show as 7 seasons, but had to collapse 6 seasons worth of storylines into this 1 season late in the game. I don't know. It is so, DMG, watch it. It is so tight. I suspect this was always their planning. Like the last few years, they've been making 4 movies. Because that's really what it is. We're seeing 4 3-hour, or a 2 and change hour movies. If you take care of the credits and the recaps and everything. I think this was always the plan. But you know what? If it wasn't, and they changed late in the game, damn, they did it well. Because it fits. I had mentioned earlier, there's only some stutterers No, or stutters. You know, little moments where I'm like, oh, that took me out of the show for a bit. But otherwise, yeah, no. Um, and at times it's downright disturbing. Like it approaches me being uncomfortable, it approaches zone of interest in Dedra's negotiating her, like she's still a careerist. She wants to do well by the Empire, but she's also got her own, I want to get access. But it's also like, you know, I don't want to do this. I don't want to do that. Even that, I'm like, geez, does Dedra actually have a heart? Is that one of the reasons she doesn't want to work for Krennic? You know, it's like, oh, I know I can do it, but I don't want to do it. And that's so corporate. They're so corporate. The parties they go to, I remembered this. I remember this bullshit. Yeah. When I worked at the city of Winnipeg. I mean, we weren't planning, you know, crimes against humanity, but in many respects, it's the same thing. Well, this is what the boss wants. Well, Rob likes his good city money, so whatever, boss. You know. Oh, DMG. I'm glad I didn't say anything more. Looking forward to your take on it. I'll have mine out maybe tonight, probably not till tomorrow or Tuesday, to be perfectly honest. You know how long it takes me to actually edit even the most basic things. Listen, folks, before we get into the Resist with Rob or final thoughts or anything, I should actually kind of bring up the social nutrition checklist. In part because this is the highest social nutrition checklist Jim and I have done. Well, not Jim and I, or I have done in, I think, months, maybe years. Scored 75%. Would it get a reframe stamp? No, I don't think it's going to get a reframe stamp. I mean, there are certainly important women above the line. It's not it's not like some of the Miyazaki stuff from the 90s where it's like, is there any women here? But yeah, I don't think it's going to reframe stamp. It is union made. It certainly passes the Bechdel test. And it has, as far as I'm concerned, especially for a big budget Disney movie, yeah, this has got a working class perspective. I'd even say it's got class analysis baked into the whole thing. Just one of the best shows we've watched for this, and that it comes out of Disney is just all the more amazing. Yeah, I know Mark said, you know, hey, the last capitalist we hang will be the one who sold us the rope to hang him. But still, that kind of blows me away. But let's go back to Andor. Let's go. Let's talk about Resist with Rob. Oh, let me get this. Resist with Rob. I think this show and the way this is happening and the way this is playing out. And when I think of Mon Mothma, when I think of that debate, when I think of her inability to get any senators on her side to do even the most basic good thing, is exactly why I'm saying to you, and I say this as a Canadian who just went through an election that actually could have gotten a lot worse. Like I was actually kind of, oh, well, thank God that Conservatives didn't get in. But I also say, oh, thank God the Liberals didn't get a majority. That the NDP was punished, and rightly so, but still has a bargaining chip. I'm like, well, you know, could have been a lot worse. But I say this to the folks, whether they vote Liberal or Democratic in the United States, Liberal up here, or even New Democratic up here, Quit counting on them. They are not trustworthy. That doesn't mean you don't. I'm not saying don't vote for these people. I'm saying don't count on them. The only way you're going to make sure an elected official does what you need them to do is constant pressure. You don't be like the Gormans going, boy, I hope, we just need to get this out to the public. You don't be like Mon Mothma going, I just need to whip the right amount of votes and we'll stop the emperor in his tracks. It's like, just look at it. For all her efforts, it all comes to naught. The Gormans are going to lose their planet or a portion of it, or like some horrible crime against humanity is going to happen, in part because they're like, they counted on liberals. They counted on the system. You can't. I'm not saying burn the system down. I mean, I think that's what should happen, but you want stuff out of your liberal friends, you got to keep on them. Untrustworthy. Remember, they really are the kinder face of the bastards on the other side. Here's a gross oversimplification of what I think is going on in the United States and to a degree here in Canada, but throughout the Western industrialized, the G7, let's say, although the damage goes further, right? And Andor is such a great explainer and demonstrator of that. But we're talking about, let's see, up here in Gorman, Canada, might as well be the same thing, but down in the States, you've got the MAGA saying the reason you're poor and you're nervous about being able to afford a home or being able to afford anything, you know what it is? It's DEI, which is really just a code for DEI and the transgender. I mean, that's old-timey N-words and Q-words. That's all they're doing. But it's literally telling people who are under this stress that that's the reason they're poor. And then over here, let's say you're like, well, I know it isn't the black person that's screwing me. Certainly not the transgender. You know that other side of the same coin, because they're all taking their money from billionaires. So who are they really working for? The billionaires. They're saying, well, you got to vote for me. I mean, well, otherwise you're really just you're throwing the transgender people under the bus. You're a racist otherwise if you don't vote for me. But that person ain't going to change your material circumstances. And so you're forever stuck going to the least terrible option. And that's, sorry folks, that's it. So, quit counting on liberals. Just quit it, pressure them, harass them, harangue them, but do not count on a liberal. Whether it's small r in the States or capital L, or small l in the States or capital L here in Canada, and I include the party I'm actually a member of, the New Democrats, don't count on those either. You need to be a part of a larger, a grassroots movement, people like yourselves going, no, we need real change that'll actually change our lives now here. And not, because, and yeah, you still got to reject it's that black person if you're in the States. Up here in Canada, that Indigenous person, that First Nations person, they're not the problem. They are the ally. They are the people you should be working with to keep the pressure on and to get real change. So there's Resist with Rob. Quit counting on liberals. Anyway, there's my rant. There's my sermon. Let's get back to the movie at hand, the show at hand, the hybrid movie show thing. We're talking about this ring series, this opera, this Star Wars opera, Andor. And I think that means really we're talking about final thoughts. Folks, yeah, I said it before, bears repeating. Compelling characters, near insurmountable obstacles, dilemmas for the ones who are obviously going to survive. How are they going to overcome that for their worthy goals? Except for Dedra. I mean, that is a crime against humanity. I mean, relatively speaking. Real personal stakes for everybody. They're all sympathetic. Well, not Krennic. I mean, he's a piece of and exploring themes that are worthy. You got the revolution versus rebellion. What's real courage? What cost? What cost is, as you see Cinta die, do you go, wow, but that was worth it? I gotta admit, I'd be like, no, that was just a shitty death right at the most poignant moment. You can only feel for her, but I also feel for the kid who accidentally shot her. You feel for everybody. You feel that it isn't just a show. It's not just, I know it is just a show, but that for these characters, it becomes real. And yeah, it ain't come and see real, but boy, it's solid. DMG says, it's off to the movies. Have a great time. DMG, thank you so much for that sweet watch time. Woo! I did not want to press that button. All right, folks. I will one more time beg you for a like, a subscribe, and ringy-dingy of that bell. To Dragon Movie Guy, Jelly Duck 100, JD 100, and Will Kavanaugh. So glad you guys popped by. Thanks for your contributions. Will, shout out to you. Great question. Great questions, great comments. Really appreciate that. I hope I can swing you around, though, to my side. I hope Tony Gilroy can swing you around to my side, and that Dedra and Cyril are actually a fascinating dynamic, not just between themselves, but how it'll affect the show. And I think that's about it. Yeah, what can I say?